Out of about 437 registered members, the entire 430 voted for Adebayo Adelabu, which is almost 100%. I'm so happy. It's quite peaceful. There's no hooliganism, there's no violence here. The conduct of the election was peaceful. I'm satisfied with the one I witnessed here. But I must sound this note of caution that it is not this way in a lot of other words. Reports reaching me stated that there are a lot of gross misconducts in a lot of the other words, ranging from various forms of infractions. In some words, they conducted the election hours before the appointed time. Before our people started getting there, they've already conducted the election and they wrote the figures they liked. In some words, our people were prevented from voting. They were intimidated, they were chased away violently. And in some words, voting did not take place at all, but they recorded numbers for them. So all this kind of misconduct is not good at this stage of our democracy.
They say if you want to know what a person will do in public, watch what they do in private. For years, Nigerians have suspected that the APC's election victories were not always built on genuine public support. The suspicion has lingered through every election cycle that somewhere between the polling unit and the announced result, something was happening that had nothing to do with the actual choices of actual voters. But suspicion is not proof. And without proof, the accusations remain just that. Accusations that the ruling party could dismiss, deflect, and deny with the confidence of those who know the machinery is on their side. Until now. Because what has just happened inside the APC, in a process that was supposed to be an internal party exercise conducted among its own members, has ripped away the curtain that was hiding the machinery. The evidence did not come from the opposition. It did not come from civil society or international observers or investigative journalists. It came from the APC's own people, politicians who dedicated years of loyalty to the ruling party, men and women who campaigned for the APC, delivered votes for the APC, and built their political careers within the APC. They sat down for their own party's primary election, a process that was supposed to be straightforward, transparent, and fair, and what they witnessed was so brazen, so shameless, and so poorly concealed that they could not stay silent. They are now speaking, and what they are saying should alarm every Nigerian who plans to vote in 2027. What exactly did they witness? What does it reveal about the APC's plans for the general election? And what must Nigerians do before it is too late? Stay right here. If you are new here, subscribe right now and turn on your notification bell. Share this video immediately because what is being revealed about the APC's election strategy concerns every single Nigerian regardless of who they support. Now, let us get straight into the full details. The APC primaries were supposed to be a moment of internal democratic exercise, a process through which party members and delegates would freely choose their preferred candidates for the 2027 general election. Simple, transparent, fair. What happened instead has shocked even those who have spent years watching Nigerian politics at its most cynical. Across multiple states and senatorial districts, the APC primary results produced outcomes so disconnected from political reality that they immediately raised red flags among everyone paying attention. Popular politicians with strong grassroots support, established track records, and well-known public profiles lost their primaries to candidates with significantly lower recognition and demonstrably weaker bases. The results were not just surprising, they were statistically implausible. Consider this a sitting senator, a man with years of legislative experience and an established constituency, received just 4 votes in his party's primary election. 4 votes. In a process involving party delegates who were supposedly representing the interests and preferences of APC members in his district. How does a senator get 4 votes in his own party primary? The answer, according to those who participated in the process and have since come forward publicly, is that the votes were not counted honestly. They were manufactured. Figures were inflated for preferred candidates and suppressed for those the party leadership wanted removed. The outcome was decided before the delegates sat down, and the voting process was simply the performance that gave the predetermined result a veneer of legitimacy. These are not allegations from opposition politicians with an obvious incentive to discredit the APC. These are testimonies from APC members, aspirants who went through the process themselves, who were present in the rooms where these primaries were conducted, and who have chosen to speak out despite the personal and political risks that come with publicly challenging the ruling party's internal decisions. Their courage in speaking out is itself significant, and their message carries a warning that extends far beyond their personal grievances about lost tickets. If the APC is willing to rig its own internal primaries, a process involving its own members, its own delegates, its own candidates, then what exactly are they planning to do in a general election involving millions of ordinary Nigerians across 36 states? This is the question that the disqualified aspirants are raising, and it is the right question. The skills, the infrastructure, and the willingness to manipulate vote counts do not disappear after a primary election. They get refined. The people who manufactured results in the primaries are the same people who will be present during the general election count. The system that allowed 4 votes to become a winning margin in an internal party exercise is the same system that will be managing ballot boxes, result sheets, and collation centers when Nigerians go to the polls in 2027. What was exposed in the APC primaries is not just an internal party scandal, it is a rehearsal, a dry run for what the party intends to deploy on a much larger scale when the real contest arrives. This reading of events becomes even more compelling when you examine another deliberate move that the APC has made in recent months, the legislation restricting politicians from switching parties. The anti-defection law, pushed through with the support of APC lawmakers, makes it significantly harder for politicians to leave one party and join another outside of specific narrow windows. On the surface, this appears to be about party stability and political discipline. But the timing and targeting of this legislation tells a different story. The law is designed to keep opposition politicians locked inside parties that are being systematically weakened, while simultaneously preventing the growth of credible opposition platforms through the movement of experienced political figures. It is a legislative version of the same strategy seen in the INEC timetable manipulation, use institutional mechanisms to constrain the opposition while leaving the ruling party's own movements unrestricted. The fact that a federal high court recently nullified the INEC deadline is an important victory. But the anti-defection legislation remains a tool in the APC's arsenal, and its implications for the 2027 electoral landscape are still playing out. For the NDC, for the ADC, and for every opposition platform trying to build a credible alternative to APC governance, the warning from these disqualified aspirants could not be more timely or more serious. Preparation must begin now, not in the final weeks before the election, not after the first signs of manipulation appear, now. That preparation takes several forms. Independent parallel vote collation, where opposition parties track results at the polling unit level and compile their own independent tallies, is one of the most effective tools against result manipulation at the collation stage. When opposition parties have their own verified figures from the ground, manufactured results become much harder to sustain against the weight of documented evidence. Polling unit level presence is equally critical. Every polling unit in every ward, in every local government across the country must have trained, committed observers on election day. The manipulation that happens at the counting and collation stage is significantly harder to execute when there are credible witnesses present at every step of the process. Civil society organizations, legal teams, and international observers must also be mobilized and briefed well in advance. The legal infrastructure for challenging manipulated results must be prepared before election day, not scrambled together in its aftermath. But beyond all the technical preparations, the most powerful weapon against electoral manipulation remains the one that the disqualified APC aspirants themselves are pointing to the unity and determination of the Nigerian masses. History has consistently shown that overwhelming popular support, when translated into overwhelming voter turnout, creates a margin that even the most determined rigging machinery struggles to overcome. When millions of Nigerians show up at polling units, when every vote is cast and witnessed and documented, when the gap between genuine public choice and manufactured results becomes too large to bridge without obvious fraud, the cost of rigging becomes too high, even for those with the most to lose. This is why the voter mobilization efforts of the NDC, the OK movement, and every opposition-aligned civic organization matter so profoundly. Every Nigerian who obtains a PVC, who shows up to vote, who stays at the polling unit until results are announced and recorded, each one of these individuals is a brick in a wall that makes manipulation significantly harder. The APC has the machinery, The question is whether the Nigerian people have the numbers and the determination to overwhelm it. The disqualified aspirants who have come forward are performing a public service. Their willingness to expose what they witnessed at personal cost gives Nigerians the information they need to prepare. The warning has been issued. The evidence has been laid before the public. What happens next depends on whether Nigerians treat this revelation as the urgent call to action it is, or allow it to become another story that generates outrage for a news cycle and then fades away while the machinery continues to run.